welcome to another STEM story. So today we're speaking to Anne Okafor, who's coming to us to talk about her role as a construction planner. I don't know an awful lot about that role, but I'm excited to learn today. Thank you very much for coming and speaking to me today, Anne.
You're welcome, Georgina. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Can you tell us about what the role of a construction planner is? What's involved?
Yeah, certainly can. So essentially what my role is I look at all the tasks that are involved in building a construction project. So whatever the project may be, you need to look at all the tasks from very beginning to planning, what sort of permissions we need, what sort of timelines that's going to take. All the tasks, write down everything to hanging doors at the end of it, putting windows in, everything, absolutely every single task. And then I put them all in what we call the construction program.
Yeah.
And basically that is what I call at basic level. It's the to-do list for the project. So it tells us everything we need to do. And then we assign time and we assign resources to that. So how long is it going to take us to do this? How many people do we need? And sometimes, it'll take us longer if we don't have as many people. So we need to put all that in, and we need to make sure that it happens in the time scale that the client wants it. We can take as long or as short as possible, but some things can only take certain times. So we basically have to look at all that information and put it into this construction program. And then what I do is I help the site teams to manage that progress. So we do progress updates on a weekly or monthly basis, depending on the level of report that we're trying to get and the level of information that we're trying to get. And we have a look and understand what percentage of the task we've done. So have we done half of the task? Have we done all of the task? What did we intend to do? Did we intend to have all of the tasks? So it's a comparison and just to check where we are, almost like a health check on where we are in terms of time. And then I report that back to the business so that they can then use that information to make decisions about the project. So do we need to bring more people there? Is it going to take longer than we initially thought? Was there a problem that, if something takes longer, why was that an issue? Maybe it's the weather, maybe something's went wrong, maybe we can't get a material. Certainly during COVID, there was lots and lots of different things that stopped happening. So things just stopped happening. So we had to readjust the plan. So then we take all that into account, and sometimes we have to, adapt the plan. And then we keep monitoring that until it finishes. And then we can use that information when we're making a new plan, because things change all the time. Material lead-ins change, and resources available to us change, but it gives us information and data that we can use to make our new plan. So in essential, it's a big to-do list for a project at the very basic level, and it kind of informs all of the steps that we need to do to take in order to basically build the building or the project that we are doing at that time.
Oh my, crikey. I'm sitting here thinking, like, I get stressed out if I've got to, like, you download a recipe from the internet and then try and turn that into a shopping list. That's stressful. This is like a whole, that's like
it's very similar to that, actually.
I can't cope with that level of stress. Compare my cupboard with this shopping list with this recipe list, and that's like the smallest scale version of building an entire building or complex and considering all of the different elements and safety requirements and laws that go into that. Oh my.
We have a whole team of people that help. It's not just me.
Yeah.
I work with all the different departments. So I work with the pre-construction people that help me understand what is needed before we go on site. Then I can work with health and safety people or project managers to help me understand what we need to do on site. So it's not a single task that I need to do all by myself. Obviously, as you go through projects and you do similar things, you get to learn common threads and things, and then it's more just getting input for for tweaks, as we'll say. But it's a team effort. It's a complete team effort, the whole process. It's not just solely left to me, so that does help. And the fact that everybody's skills and everybody's experiences can be used to make that document actually is really good, because then we can make something that really works for everybody, and we all understand what requirements are on all of our departments and what we'd expected to do as a team. So having the team effort and input makes it a whole lot less stressful.
I mean, the sound of that, the program that you said, that sounds very exciting. So does that just kind of you put in your parameters and it turns that into your checklist?
So it's essentially a Gantt chart that we use. It's a software program. I use a software called Ask the Power Project. There are different ones on the market, but generally for construction at the scale I'm doing, it's generally Ask the Power Projects is one of the most popular ones. There are others that they use for infrastructure projects and things like that. But it is essentially just a Gantt chart, so a bar chart in a basic form that helps us to understand, and then it helps us to mark up progress, and then we get what we call the red jaggy line, which puts a line down it, which helps us to see whether we're on target or on track with tasks, or whether we need to adjust something, and then the software can help us manipulate those and we can put in different scenarios. So, for example, if we want to understand, like if we have 10 people or whether we have 5 people, or if we want to do something faster, we can put in those different scenarios into the software to help us to make the decisions that we want for the project and for the business.
Cool. I love that. This is what I've kind of learned with running my business, which is much less complex than what you've described there. But if you get a software that's designed specifically for that function, it's so much easier to fit it into what you're trying to do. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. It's developed with industry professionals. To be honest, they've had a lot of input in the development of the project, and the company that runs that works with industry to inform. They take feedback and things like that quite frequently to see how they can improve with each sort of iteration and version that they bring out. So it's constantly adapting and changing, also to sort of like move with us and move with the industry requirements as well.
Yeah. See, that's the danger of, I mean, I have conversations with students sometimes about, well, if I've got computers that can do this, I've got a calculator or I've got Google, why do I need to know these things? And it's like, computers are only as good as the information that they're given. You can't 100% let it take over control of what you're doing.
Absolutely. The thing I always think about, go back to the calculator, everyone says, oh, well, I don't need to know maths because I've got a calculator. Well, the calculator is only as good as you know what you need to press. You have to know what you want to press. You have to know why you're doing that in order to get something sensible to come out of it. You can't just wave it about in the air and it does everything you want it to do. There's some action from you that is required. So the software is a tool, just like a calculator is a tool. They help us do our job, and they can be very, very good at doing that. But there's lots of human skills that we need to put into that, and knowledge and training. And it's very similar to basically a calculator. It's just a different tool.
Yeah, calculator can definitely stitch you up in a maths exam.
Yeah, definitely.
And one of my favorite phrases is, do not entirely trust your calculator. Please sanity check its answers.
Yeah, and we constantly do that with the work that I do. We'll sanity check, and sometimes, if it's something a bit more complex, I'll send it up the line, or I'll send it to people in the team and ask them for feedback. Give me feedback. Does something not look right? Because it is software. I'm human. We do make mistakes. You can press the wrong button. Sometimes something just doesn't click. With the software. So we do that as well. For this, it's very, very similar process.
It reminds me of it's quite helpful to have that balance where you've got people that are very experienced that can kind of look at something and say, get a feel for whether that's right or not. People that are very new, so they get fresh eyes on what you're doing and ask lots of why questions. And then the software that just helps you to do it a bit more simply.
Absolutely. And that's why, back I was saying about team input, it's important at the creation, but also at the feedback stage, because what we might discuss, it's down to comprehension as well. I might have misunderstood something about a timeline, or how something, the sequence as well. So it's very important that we get the sequence right in building. Obviously we can't put roofs on before we've got walls and things like that, but there is times when that might be possible, as crazy as that sounds, that, there's different ways and methods of doing things, and people have lots and lots of different experiences. So they might understand a better way or have worked with something better.
Yeah.
Or new people just come in, like you say, with a totally fresh look on and say, why are you doing it that way? Because it doesn't make sense to me. So constantly having that feedback loop is really, really good. And it helps me to make a better programme, which then helps everybody to have a better grasp of what we need to do throughout the project.
Yeah. I'm renowned for that. Unfortunately, wherever I go, there's lots of why questions, and it doesn't always get well received. It's quite nice to hear somebody else that's a fan.
Why questions are great. I love why questions. Curiosity is fabulous.
Yeah,
That's how we learn stuff.
exactly. It's very interesting to go into completely new situations and just absorb everything. The familiar, you kind of stop noticing.
Absolutely. So true.
This is what I'm finding people speaking to people about all their different roles, and a whole variety of really cool stuff. And like everyone describes their role to me, and I'm sitting here thinking, that's so cool. That sounds really complicated. How do you do that? And I guess for you, it's just this is just what I do. It's just normal.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. But to be honest, I love my job, and I do like understand how cool it is sometimes to do the things that we do every day in construction. So
Yeah.
I'm fairly new to industry, and that I've come from a different industry, so it is still cool to me. Even about 8 or 9 years in, yeah, having come from a different industry, like I still feel like it's cool that I get to do this work every day.
Yeah. Have you got any like favorite stories from it? Are there any kind of really impressive construction projects or things that felt a bit insane?
I'm trying to think. I think the thing for me that I love about it so much is that every project is so, so different.
Yeah.
Even things that, on paper look the same, the
Yeah.
challenges are different, the people are different, and the difference that you make within communities can be very, very different, So for me, that's really cool. Being able to actually, it sounds a bit cheesy, I think, sometimes, but we actually do change the face of the world. We change the communities. We're providing homes for people who don't have homes or don't have comfortable homes. So we're actually changing people's lives and changing the communities that we work in. And to me, that's just super cool. I love to be able to contribute to that way to Scotland. I've worked all over Scotland in my career so far, and to be able to provide those buildings or buildings that are visitor centres or schools that people, are able to go and enjoy and work in nice, healthy, clean environments, live in, healthy, clean environments. It's quite important work, I think.
Yeah. Do you get to see people using the buildings that you've planned?
Sometimes I do. So my first ever project when I was a student was a visitor centre for historic environment in Scotland,
Oh,
which is fairly close to my house still where I live now. And every so often I do pop back and just see people enjoying it and interacting with the building. So that's pretty cool as well.
oh, that would be amazing. Love
Yeah.
that. So cool. Yeah, I mean, it's not, it probably feels a bit cheesy because it's like when you come home, the classic story of like you come home from work and you talk about your day and nobody in your house gets it because it's your job. But that's how you know that you're in a job that means something to you, because that's it. You find it all inspiring. So yeah, it's not cheesy.
Yeah.
It's good. I love that. Um, so what is it that led you into becoming a construction planner?
Oh, it's been a really windy road. It's not something I even knew existed until I was actually in industry.
Yeah.
I left school without any qualifications really, just standard grades. Didn't have a great experience with maths, so that kind of held me back from construction or for going for that type of role. But in my late 20s, I decided that I wanted to go back to education, and I'd said to myself earlier on that I would do that, and decided it was time to tackle my maths anxiety, which is something that I've struggled with like all the way through. So I took the bull by the horns and just went for it. Went back to college, and then the plan at that time was just to do an HNC and then go back to like get an apprenticeship or like a on-site sort of like apprenticeship graduate kind of position. But the more and more I got into the studying, I did the HNC, and then I got involved with the Chartered Institute of Building and got involved with much more construction professionals. It was like the recommendation was to go on and get your degree. So I did that. And then I got a graduate role as an assistant site manager, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be on site all the time. I loved it. I still love being out on site. For me, though, I do a lot of volunteering in the evenings with Girl Guiding and with other charities and things like that. So it wasn't always a good fit for me personally to be on site, because sometimes, you know, if things are not happening right on site, you can't always leave at a certain time. So for me, in my situation, it didn't work all the time. Whereas being a planner is a bit more strict in terms of, like, you know, your working day, if you know what I mean. It's a bit more regular, I guess, is the, you know what I'm trying to say. So I was able to sort of like keep in with my volunteering commitments and things like that. It allowed me to sort of like have that balance, and I still get to go on site as part of my role, so I still get that fun and enjoyment and, you know, buzz that I get from being out on the construction site. But I can also schedule things in a way that I'm able to do the volunteering that matters to me. So I got involved with people as I've been going through the industry work placements and things. And it was actually a lady who I'd worked with when I was a trainee on my very first job. She was the planner there. And when I graduated, she was like, "What are you doing? My company's looking for planners, looking for a trainee planner. I think you'd be great at it. You know, do you want to apply?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, let's go for that." And but I didn't know that construction planning was a role until I was actually already in industry and, like, you know, sort of already training on the site management level. I didn't know that that was something that I could do, but it does actually fit really well with what I'm good at naturally anyways, organising. And so it fitted me really well, and the opportunity came up at the right time.
Yeah, I love that. Would you like this awesome job? Yes, please.
Yes, please. I'll come and apply. I had to go for an interview, and but yeah, I mean, it was just, I'd done a lot of that type of, because it was naturally something that I was interested in, was organising things. Even in the jobs that I'd done before, I'd been organising things in such a way already that showed sort of like competency and an ability towards that. So it made it easy for me to be able to demonstrate why they should sort of like take a chance on me to start the trainee role.
Yeah. It's really, really nice to hear that your approach to having maths anxiety, because this is something I see quite a lot. I teach students maths, and very frequently they have maths anxiety. And
Yeah.
here you are now, like you've faced it and embraced it. You're literally wearing maths now.
Yeah. I do this because I'm actually so I've come full circle on this, and I'm now a numeracy champion with national numeracy. So I do speak to schools and children and parents, teachers about maths anxiety and how they can help their students or children, or even just parents, because, you know, what I've seen as well is a lot of parents don't speak about it because they also struggle, and that's absolutely fine. But I think there's so much stigma about maths anxiety, and where people think, you know, and that's what held me back from going to construction industry, and was like being able to put my hand up and say, I don't think I'm great with this. I need some extra help. And now I openly talk about my story, so that people can, you know, understand that it is okay to say, actually, I don't know that, or I need a little bit extra help with that. And I was really lucky in the fact that I had some amazing lecturers through college and university, and people in industry as well, that have been really supportive. And now I share my story about overcoming maths anxiety to be able to show other people that they can do jobs in construction. My job is all maths, pretty much. And if you'd have told me that even like 5 years ago, that I'd be doing a job that was all maths, I would have laughed you out the door, because I just wouldn't have seen it. I didn't even actually realise my job was all maths until I was doing a STEM ambassador thing, and someone was like, "Right, you need to explain your job in terms of maths to an 8-year-old." And I was like, "Well, I don't do maths in my job." And they were like, "No, you must do maths in your job because, you know, you're in construction, you must do some maths." And I'm like, "I don't know how to explain it." So like, "Right, talk to me, tell me what you do." And I started telling them all the tasks that I do, and they're like, "Yep, that's maths, that's maths, that's maths, that's all maths. Your whole job is maths." And I was stunned, because it's so everyday maths for me. And some of the stuff is everyday maths that we do all the time. You know, we don't even realise that it's maths sometimes, because it's just stuff that we do. And I think that kind of helped me to learn as well about taking the the fear away from it. Actually, I do know this stuff. I do know because I do it all the time. I just don't actually recognize it as math sometimes. So I think it's important to highlight those sort of aspects to people who maybe feel like they're struggling maths, but actually you're probably better than what you think already.
Yeah. And it's a kind of the other end of the scale, that there's not a single person in the history of mankind that was born able to do maths. So we're all beginners at some point. Doesn't matter who they are. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I get this with my students are kind of seeing me that's been doing maths since I did my own GCSEs quite a long time ago, 24 years ago, and I do it every day. And if I wasn't able to do arithmetic, that would have been a problem a long time ago. Can't really be comparing it to what I'm doing when they're seeing things for the first time, but that's what they do, of course, when they're getting this information from experienced teachers at school and from watching other people that are doing it competently, having done it forever. It's not really a fair comparison for someone that's seeing it for the first time, and it seems to have become just acceptable to say, oh, but I can't do maths. Like, add the yet and then you're right.
Absolutely. I always, when I'm talking to children and parents and teachers, I always sort of focus on the language that we use, because it is so important. And if we keep on just saying we can't, then it puts us in like a fixed mindset of like, well, there's no point in me trying this because I can't do it. You're not going to waste time doing something that you can't do, you know. So your mind just goes to that and switches off. But at the end of the day, maths is a skill, just like any other skill that we want to improve in our life. So when I'm talking to children, I use things like football and dancing. If you want to get better at it, you've got to practice, you've got to have a go, you know, and you don't need to know the whole game all in one go. It might just be a drill that you're doing, you know. In football you might just be learning how to dribble today, just like in maths you might be just doing multiplication today. So you can break it down into chunks, and actually, you know, you don't need to know the whole game, because you know a goalkeeper focuses on his part, so he knows what he needs to do for his job. You know, a specific dancer knows the type of dance that she might want to do or he might want to do, and we can focus on the bits that we need. I don't know all of maths. I know what I need to do for my job, and I also know that I can cope if something comes up that I don't know now, whereas that was a big problem before. Like I would just be like, my brain would go, oh no, it's maths, no, run away from this. But actually, you know, I know now that actually I'm fine. I can go and find help. There's people there, there's resources there. You know, we're so lucky now that we've got all these online resources and ways to help us, that I can find out, you know. So I just have to go and remember I need to practice this part again, you know, or I need to refresh, or it's something new. I need to go and look it up and find out and start, you know, taking action to learn. So it's just getting yourself in that mindset of it's just a skill like anything else. But for some reason maths we just see in a totally different way to anything else, that, you know, any other skill that we are taught that we need to learn and practice. For some reason maths we see it as we either can or we can't, and no in between,
Yeah.
which is really bizarre, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't feel like I was particularly good at maths at school, but I always quite enjoyed the problem solving elements of it. So I equate it in my mind to how terrible I am at running. Because I've frequently tried to be someone that runs, and occasionally I've gotten quite good at it. But as soon as I stop trying for a little while, I forget, or my muscles change, or my body shape changes, and I can't do it anymore. Occasionally I've injured something and I can't do it for a little while. It's always hard to keep
Yeah.
being someone that's very good at running. It's like with maths, if over the Christmas break, or even the summer break, I'll have a student that was very good at a particular skill, and then when you come back after a break, they've temporarily forgotten it.
Yeah. But I think it's, you know, these are the conversations we should be having about maths, and to saying that that's absolutely normal for all of us.
Yeah.
But so many people get stuck in that, oh, well, I've forgotten, I must be rubbish at this. And then they just don't go back to it. Or people tell them, you know, well, it's okay, you don't need to worry because I never use maths after school. Actually, we all do all the time. But we reinforce, and we're well meaning a lot of the time with the things that we say. You know, we're trying to provide comfort. We're trying to say, you know, don't worry about it too much. But when we're using that type of language, we're actually reinforcing that people don't need to try. So it's kind of a bit unhelpful sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is actually really rewarding. I mean, I appreciate that I have a particular interest in these things, but there is such a satisfaction of having something that was really difficult and you figured it out. Like if it was easy, it wouldn't be that much fun.
Exactly. It's all good problem solving skills. And like I say, certainly for me in construction, we're team effort. Project is a team effort. So we can get other people, it's certainly different in school, in an exam situation, it is on you. But in the real world, you can access resources, you can ask for help, you can bring your team in and problem solve something together. So, but it's just having the confidence really to know that you can do that, and to not sort of limit yourself by going, I can't do that, and just sort of like walking away from it, which I did for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't do that now.
I know lots of people do this because once you get labeled as somebody that's good at maths, with your friends, if there's a maths question that comes up, you'll get it. So anytime I go for dinner with a group of friends, I just get handed the bill, or go and watch the darts game. They're like, you can keep the score. I'm like, okay, this isn't on the curriculum, so darts isn't really a skill I have.
Yeah. Plus, it's my day off.
Yeah. I'll help you with that one. Sorry, get a calculator. Yeah, fair. I think people are comfortable with it. Genuinely, like if you are in your head, like you've told yourself that this is something that you can't do, and you're in a situation where you're going to need to do it, and you aren't comfortable with getting it wrong, it's not even like it's difficult. I've had situations where my brain's just shut off from it. It's like, no, I'm not going to even try this. Turn it off.
Yeah.
Like, okay, thanks, brain. You're not actually helping me with this problem.
And that's what I went to for so many years, was just an avoidance of it, and because I was in the way of doing that, my brain did just do that all the time, and it was just like, no, I'm not even entertaining that. My brain would just be like, no thanks, maths, no thanks, see you later, I'm out of here. But like say, that just takes a little bit of time to, when you're used to going to that behavior all the time, it takes a little bit of work to go, actually, you can do this. You just need to take a moment and think about it. If you get it wrong, you get it wrong, try again, it's fine. But it's you've got to really do that consciously quite a lot until that sticks.
Yeah, I mean, I make mistakes all the time with maths problems.
Everybody does.
Yeah. No
We're
one
human.
sacks me, so
We're
can't be that
human.
bad. Is there anything that you think that you would change if you went back through your journey again?
I think probably just confronting the whole maths thing a bit sooner than what I did,
Mm.
taking that action a bit sooner. Um, I think that would be the number one thing, that if I could change something, it would be, because I think it would have opened a lot more doors for me sooner than what it did. Having said that, the actual journey that I've taken with maths anxiety has taught me a hell of a lot about myself, and what I can do. But I wish I hadn't taken so long to confront that and to get on board with realizing that, because there's so much support once you actually sort of say, I need a bit of help with this. There is so much support out there, but I think because we don't talk about it so much, it's quite isolating, and you can feel quite lonely in that, like that you're struggling with something. And that's maybe not just maths, but certainly in the maths anxiety thing, there's quite a lot of, I guess maybe more so perceived stigma. There is a lot of stigma around it as well. But I think, there is much more help. I've had much more help and support since I've recognised I need a bit more help and support, than there has been anything negative. So I think if I'd have put my hand up a little bit sooner and just said, I need some help and support with this, I would have found that help and support a lot sooner than what I have. But like I say, it's taught me so much. So
Yeah,
I'm glad of the journey that I've had.
yeah. That's a really important thing to highlight. I think for people that have maths anxiety, they're no better or worse at maths than people that don't have maths anxiety. The only difference is how comfortable they are highlighting when they're struggling, rather than trying to pretend that they don't have any problems at all or avoid the problem entirely, because everybody gets struggles, and that's where all of that anxiety comes from. It's horrible to have to suffer with it and not be able to ask for help.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. So for anybody's anxieties, message is ask for help. People quite like being asked for help. Perfect. So when you were at school, what was your favorite subject?
For me, mostly practical subjects. I quite like the technical subjects. Unfortunately, back when I was at school, though, it wasn't really encouraged for girls to do those things. So it didn't really lead anywhere in terms of, staying on. But yeah, they were certainly my favourite. Didn't have a great experience with maths at school, as we've already kind of mentioned. But certainly the practical subjects and the technical subjects were what I looked forward to most in my week.
Yeah. And have you found any of that kind of gender bias in the role that you have as well? Is it still like out of place as a woman in that industry, or is it improving?
It is improving very slowly. I've been, and I hate using this term, lucky, because it shouldn't come down to luck, but I have been super lucky and I've had some incredible workplaces, employers, colleagues, role models, both of the male and female. And I've had like a really good experience in construction. I don't feel like I've had a negative experience because I'm a woman. I do know that there are lots and lots and lots of experiences where that is a problem, and where women do have really negative experiences, but we are increasing in numbers. Um, Employers are becoming much more inclusive, and having much more inclusive practices and actually calling out exclusive behavior where people are behaving badly. That is becoming much more called out, whereas before it would kind of just be seen as the done thing, to say whatever you wanted and there'd be no consequence, but now there is consequences for people who are behaving badly. And I think that's really important in changing the situation for people. But the more and more we recruit and the more we all contribute to the conversations about what we need in industry, those things will change. It won't happen overnight. It does need to happen a lot faster than what it is currently happening at, but progress takes time, as I know, certainly being in a construction planner role, progress does take time, but it is moving in the right direction.
Perfect. That's really good to hear. It's nice that you haven't had that negative experience. I haven't had a negative experience working in STEM as a woman, but yeah, I know a lot of people do. So it's nice to have that balance. It shouldn't be putting people off because they're expecting a negative experience. It isn't always there.
It's hard to sometimes toe that line. It's important that we prepare people for the realities of industry, but also there are so much good things happening and there's so many good people in construction. There's so many good men in construction that really do support having women as part of the team. They understand that diversity of thought makes for better teams, it makes for better projects, it makes for better business case, but it just is a better place to work for everybody, for men included. But it just takes time for everybody to get that message. But I would certainly say there's more good people out there than there is bad. We just hear so much more about bad stuff, unfortunately, but we need to talk about the bad things in order to fix them. But yeah, it's getting that balance right without scaring people off completely.
Yeah. Yeah, it is exactly as you say. Difficult message to get quite right, but I certainly don't want people to be put off. Have conversations with people is the most helpful way to find out what to expect ahead of time. Oh, thank you very much, Anne. That sounds like it sounds like a really interesting job. I'm, as ever, in danger of wanting to go and explore other fields, but I'm just going to explore them through this podcast. Thank you. It sounds like you've had a really interesting experience and doing lots of really cool stuff now in your job and in supporting people with their maths anxiety.
Yeah, it's been a good journey, and it does feel now like I'm on the other side of where I used to be,
Yeah.
being able to help people and to sort of like just show them that there's a different way to do things, that you don't have to be stuck in that sort of like cycle of anxiety. You can actually change something if you want to do a job that's all maths. If I can, you can, So, but you have to take action. You have to put your hand up and ask for some help and support, and it really is out there.
Thank you very much. Very positive message. I love it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm your podcast host, Georgina Green, and the founder of Green Tutors, STEM specialist tuition company. We've been supporting students with their GCSE and A-level maths, science and STEM subject studies since 2011, and our team all work and have a passion for STEM professions such as engineering and chemical synthesis and medicines and all sorts of fantastic things in the world of STEM beyond the curriculum, which is what we bring into our lessons to make them more exciting, and the reason I wanted to share this podcast with you all. Alongside that, we've launched the STEM Educators Academy, where other STEM professionals and STEM education enthusiasts can come and learn about how to grow their STEM education practices together. If you're interested in any of the support that we offer, get in touch at greentutors.uk and you can access some of the free resources on there as well. This podcast would not exist without the sponsorship of STEMazing. I'm very grateful to STEMazing, not only for sponsoring our podcast, but for the brilliant work that they're doing, fostering inspiration and inclusion in STEM. I recommend having a look at their website, stemazing.co.uk, which is what you can see right now, to see a bit more about the work that they do. Alongside the award-winning Inspiration Academy, bringing events into primary schools and inspiring young people to see their future in STEM, because you can't be what you can't see. There's a fantastic membership, which I'm a part of, for women in STEM to do more of this, fostering inspiration and inclusion in STEM, with monthly content shared on empowerment, inspiration, and community. Will help you to be a better role model and mentor to people in STEM. And finally, there's a brilliant library here of role models in STEM that you can go and have a look at and hear more about their STEM stories. Here's a shout out for our sponsor, Navigated Tutor. If you haven't seen this, I recommend having a look if you're in education. The Navigated Tutor platform gives access to a quarterly webinar and magazine and training resources. The first one I've already read and attended, and in minutes learned lots that's going to make a massive impact on the way that I support my students. This is brought to you by Arthur Moore, who is not only a fantastic tutor but also the host of the Tea and Teaching podcast and Tutoring Tips podcast, two of my most listened podcasts. So I recommend that you go and check those out if you're working in education at all, and sign yourself up to the Navigated Tutor platform for some fantastic CPD. You can get access to this at mooreedu.thinkific.com. That's mooreedu.thinkific.com.